Minister, what's your reading of the state of play with China? We've seen a massive military build-up, which seems to continue infrastructure projects, bringing in air assets, pumping up air defenses. We've tried to cope up as best as possible, given the asymmetry in our economic and military capabilities. However, things aren't quite as bad as they were immediately after Galwan, but they haven't completely come back to normal either. As External Affairs Minister, how do you read what's happening on the other side of the Himalayas?
Well, the way I read it is that we, from the 1980s, I think developed a workable, decent relationship with the Chinese, predicated on the fact that there would be peace and tranquility in the border areas. This was not just an assumption or a conversation, it was written into agreements between us. Now, come 2020, we saw the Chinese side disregard those agreements for reasons which are still not clear to us, because I've met my counterpart a number of times, and others in our system have engaged each other, but I've still not heard a credible explanation as to why they chose to bring that size of forces to that sector of our border. Now, if peace and tranquility is disturbed and attempts are being made to change the LAC, the status quo, unilaterally, and large forces are brought to the border in contravention of written agreements, then obviously the relationship will be impacted. Now, if we need to get back to a normal relationship, which they say that they want, and which both of us believe is in our mutual interest, then I think they need to stick with the agreements and do the right things. Now, we've had, yes, some progress. We've had progress in Pangong So, we've had progress in a few other areas. But I think the larger problem remains, which is that there is a very sizable Chinese force very close, close if not at the LAC.
Dr. Jaishankar, it's not so much the achievements of Modi administration in international affairs, but it's the difficulties in relations that finds a lot of space in domestic politics. Now, we've seen Rahul Gandhi walk out of the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Relations when it comes to discussions on China, demanding that there needs to be discussion. There has been a lot of talk from the opposition on whether if the government has been transparent enough. Just wanted to know whether if there is a sense in the government in briefing the opposition of the difficulties that the government faces or the difficulties that the government now faces with China, and whether if the government indeed has been transparent with the country and with the opposition.
Look, I've been in the government a long time, a really long time, and over multiple governments. I think, governments, obviously, when it comes to national security situations, all governments, when it comes to national security situations, say enough so that, people outside the government have a fair sense of what is happening, and expect that people outside there will be supportive of larger national objectives and goals. Now, if sometimes it doesn't happen because people are busy politicking, I just have to say it's a very sorry state of affairs. But I don't think, just look back at the last year and a half. I mean, we know so much about what is happening out there. So nobody can say, oh, I have not been told enough, or there's been lack of briefing. I mean, I don't know the standing committee episode that you're referring to, but I can tell you, for example, as a foreign minister, we have a consultative committee, and this issue has been discussed. So it's been discussed in Parliament. Raksha Mantri has given repeated statements. So I think somewhere we need a sense of responsibility and maturity when it comes to national security matters. It should not be a subject for posturing.